Hello and welcome to everyone across the nation joining today's workshop on adding personnel. This is Marta Perez with the CASAS Technology Support Team, and I will be presenting today's workshop. This workshop focuses on how to add administrators, scorers, and teachers in your online database. This function is only available with enhanced access. In other words, a TE license or collective agreement with CASAS is required. This is one of 23 complimentary CASAS online implementation basics workshops. We highly recommend attending as many workshops possible to learn about best practices and to ask questions to become confident in using the online system. Online help is available on our website from training and support, for eTest Online Help, and TOPS Pro Enterprise. You will want to be sure and bookmark these as your electronic go-to resources. Electronic resources are updated periodically, so going to them will help to ensure you are receiving the most current information. Information for today's workshop comes from eTest Online Help, CASAS eTest Online Guide. The guide has hyperlinks throughout to help you move quickly between sections. For example, from Table of Contents on section 8.7, Adding Personnel. Okay. Using electronic resources will allow you to access additional resources and search keywords to pinpoint specific information when you need help. Now, before we get started, I want to be sure and point out where you will find access to CASAS eTest Online and TOPS Pro Enterprise. Notice the URLs I just pasted in the chat box. This is the main domain name address you will use when your agency is set up with an online database. This is commonly referred to as the production server. Okay, where live data is produced. Now, for today's workshop, we will be using a simulation server for a fictional school called Rolling Hills Adult School. The simulation server is populated with fictional data to give you a realistic training experience. Now, this is available to anyone wanting to experiment and explore our online system without risk of compromising live data. You will find information on how to access the simulation server from Training and Support, eTest Online Help, Getting Started, and download the simulation server document. Okay. Now let's begin, and please feel free to ask questions along the way. Now, the CASAS online system offers two methods for adding personnel records in your online database. With TOPS Pro Enterprise, through 1. Manual data entry, or 2. Import from a third-party system or a fillable import template. Personnel records identify by function and job status who is involved in the administration and teaching of adult learners, including information about teacher, years of experience, and certification. Now, to access TOPS Pro Enterprise for the first time on a local computer, click the TE Client link or Install link at top left of your web browser window. Now, a client application will install in the local computer to connect with the online server. A shortcut icon is automatically placed on the computer desktop. Now, if you are a user who will access TE frequently, you may want to pin the shortcut to your taskbar along your taskbar at the bottom of your computer monitor for quick access when other applications are open on your screen. Okay. Now let's launch TE. This will open, or TE opens to a login screen similar to eTests Online, except that you need to specify the server from the drop-down menu. The simulations, where we will be connecting to the simulation server. Now, the simulation server has generic accounts for administrator, proctor, coordinator, and teacher login so that you may experience different types of user accounts. Now, coordinators and proctors do not automatically have access to TE. Access to TE may be granted by the agency to anyone with or without coordinator or proctor certification. Users enter the same login credentials to access either eTests or TE because there is only one database shared between both applications. Now, after entering your login credentials, such as administrator 23 and my password, I will click Connect to establish connection to your online database. Now, TE opens to an empty screen. All data and reports are displayed from accessing menus along the top left. At top right, it displays the logged-on user, application version, and general screen controls. All user activity is tracked and recorded in the online system, so it is important not to share login credentials. Now, personnel records are manually added from the organization menu, selecting personnel. Okay. Now, each personnel record includes registration, employment records, functional roles, and professional status information. Now, to add a new personnel record, let's click Registration. A list opens to display personnel records set up in your online database. To add a new personnel registration record, from the toolbar at top left of the list, click New. A new tab opens to input personnel information in two distinct sections. Select Container and entering a personnel identification. Now, if a user account exists for an administrator, scorer, or teacher, personnel records may be linked with the user account. You can click Link with existing user. Otherwise, you may link when the user account is added. Please note that a feature to restrict teachers to own classes is in development. The practice of linking records is recommended so that your online database is prepared to implement this feature when released. Now you have the option to add personnel records at the agency level or parent container, which in this case is Rolling Hills Adult School. Or you can click the drop-down arrow in the container field and select a site, level, or child container to add a new personnel record. If an administrator, scorer, or teacher fills roles at different sites or sub-sites, the recommendation is to add the personnel record at the agency level or in the parent container so that the record may be assigned functional roles at multiple sites and subsites, and may be linked to a user account also at the agency level or in the parent container with access to multiple sites and subsites. And to link with an existing user account, click the down arrow in the user field. Either type to search or you can select from lister to pick from the user's lister or list of user accounts records. Now, the user's lister displays all user account records available at the agency level or in parent container. For example, we will use for this demonstration is to add a teacher linked with an existing user account so that the teacher may have access to enroll students in their own classes, record instructional hours, and generate their own reports. Now let's click on the filter icon in the title column and let's enter teacher. Okay. Then click OK. Now we're going to click to highlight the teacher you want to select. From the toolbar above the column headers, click Pick. Now the teacher that you selected or picked displays in the user field. Okay. And this records his personnel information record. Now, notice also that personnel identification fields are auto-populated with the teacher's user account information, such as user account login name, title, first name, last name. Now enter a personnel ID. Okay. And then from the toolbar at top of the new personnel information record, click Save. The new personnel registration record screen splits to display a navigator at left. Now to add and access related records for the personnel member and personnel information at the right. Now the next record to add for the new personnel record is information about functional roles. Functional roles identify who is involved in the administration, scoring, and teaching of adult learners. Now, personnel may have more than one functional role within the agency. From the Personnel Information Record navigator at left, click Functional Roles. To add a functional role for the personnel member, at the right, click Next. A new tab opens to Functional Role for the personnel member. Okay. Now, we're going to input functional role in 3 distinct sections: personnel information, the container to associate the role, and the role identification. Notice that personnel and container fields are auto-populate fields. These fields auto-populate when a functional role record is added from the navigator. Okay. Now, using the navigator is a recommended approach when adding records that are related to ensure accuracy and avoid errors in data entry. Now, let's continue with our example of a teacher. To link a teacher with a class, you're going to click the down arrow, okay, in the class definition. Okay, you can either type to search or you can select from the lister to pick from the class definitions lister or list of classes, in this case, across all sites. Now, since the personnel record is at the agency level or in the parent container, we have access to select any class from all sites and subsites among the list of classes. You may sort, okay, you may sort or filter for a class, and then you can click to highlight the class that you want to pick. Okay. And then click the Pick button at top of the list. The class definition populates with the class selected to associate the functional role. If the personnel member is not a teacher, leave no selection in the class definition field. Special program will auto-populate if defined for the class selected. Now, role identification is the last section to add functional role information. Now, we're going to select administrator, scorer, or teacher. Now, scorer is used with the Workforce Skills Certification System, which requires additional training to implement. Now, information about WSCS is available on our website. Select the start date when the functional role begins within the current program year. Let's see. Okay. And also, let's see, let's pick a different, we'll start on a Monday. And select the end date when the functional roles ends within the current program year. I'm going to set this up to December 18th. Okay. For teachers, start and end dates generally correspond to start and end dates when classes are scheduled. Now, role is related to instructional program. Information is non-selectable. Now, after entering functional role information from the toolbar at top of the record, click Save. Okay. To close the new functional role tab, click the red X box and return to the personnel record. The new functional role record is now listed at right in the personnel information record. The new functional role record is now listed, and as mentioned earlier, personnel may have more than one functional role within the agency. Are there any questions about the functional role record? All right, I will take that as a no. Now, the next record to add for new personnel record is information about employment. Now, employment type consists of state and local services and teachers, counselors, and paraprofessionals working at a full-time, part-time, or as unpaid volunteers. Personnel may have more than one employment type within the agency. From the navigator or from the personnel information record and the navigator at left, click Personnel Employment. To add personnel employment information for the personnel member, click New at the right. Okay. Now, a new tab opens to input personnel employment information in three distinct sections: personnel information, the container to associate employment, and employment identification. Notice that personnel and container fields auto-populate with an employment record is added from the navigator. Again, using the navigator is the recommended approach when adding records that are related to ensure accuracy and avoid errors in data entry. Now let's continue with our example of a teacher. Employment may be at the agency level or at a site level. To identify the container to associate employment, click the drop-down arrow and select the site level or child container to associate employment, or you can simply leave it at the agency level. For employment identification, okay, we're going to click the drop-down arrow or the calendar and then select the date or enter manually when employment began within the current program year. So I'm just going to select it through the default. Now select employment type and select job type. Okay. This is to match the employment type at the container selected. Now, personnel may have more than one employment type and job type within the agency. Now, for this, you need to add separate records per type. Now, after entering personnel employment information from the toolbar at top of the record, click Save. To close New Personnel Employment tab, click the red X box and return to the personnel record. The new personnel employment record is now listed at the right in the personnel information record. Personnel may have more than one employment record within the agency. Are there any questions about the personnel employment record? Okay, well, the last record to add for the new personnel record is information about professional status. A professional status record identifies years of experience in adult education and teacher certificates. This record applies to administrators, scorers, and teachers, and is reportable in Federal Table 7. Now, from the Personnel Information Record navigator at left, click Professional Status. To add professional status information for the personnel member, click New at right. A new tab opens to input professional status information in 3 distinct sections: Personnel Information, the Program Year, and Identification. Notice that personnel and program years are auto-populated when new professional status record is added from the navigator. As mentioned throughout this workshop, the recommended approach when adding records that are related to ensure accuracy and avoid errors in data entry is to use the navigator. We're going to enter years of experience in adult education. We're going to enter them here in this field. And we're going to check all teacher certificates that apply. Okay. After entering professional status information from the toolbar at top record, click Save. And now to close New Professional Status tab, click the red X box and return to the personnel record. Now the New Professional Status tab, or let me expand this really quick here. Okay, and the New Professional Status record is now listed at the right of the Personnel Information Record. Now, personnel may have more than one professional status record within the agency as new credentials are earned per program year. Are there any questions about the professional status record? All right, we're going rather quickly here with our demonstration. Now, to close the New Personnel Record tab, click the red X box and return to the Personnel Lister. Now, the new personnel record is now listed in the Personnel Lister. To view all records related to the personnel member in an efficient manner, at far right in the toolbar, click the More button and then Child Lister. From Navigator at left, click Functional Roles. Now the functional role record displays in the Child Lister record, or the page, directly below the personnel record. Okay. Personnel record is listed in the top page. Now from Navigator at left, we're going to click Personnel Employment. The system auto-refreshes to display the personnel employment record in the Child Lister below. Okay. Now, repeat to select personnel professional status or personnel employment and professional status from the navigator at left to see all record displayed in the Child Lister. Okay. Are there any questions about manually adding personnel records in your online database? Okay, well, now let's take a look at the second method for adding personnel records with importing. As mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, there are two sources for importing records coming from an external source, and that is one from a third-party system or populating an import template. There is only one way to import this information, and it's from the Tools menu. Click Third-Party Import Wizard. Here we have it. Now the wizard opens to guide you with information displayed on each screen through the importing process. From the introduction screen, click Next. From the new import session screen, let's click Next again. Now TE allows several types of imported records to populate and update information in your online database, as you may see here. Now, to import personnel records, we're going to select teacher records from a third-party system and then click Next. Okay. The most common type of files for importing records is a comma-separated values file or CSV. Now, to select the import file, we're going to click Browse. Now, from the pop-up window, this is too big. Okay, there we go. From this pop-up window, we will select a saved CSV file. Okay. One that was either exported from a third party or manually populated on an import template. We're going to click Teacher Records 1050 Import. Okay. Now that when the selected file displays in the file name field, click Next. The wizard is now ready to process the import data from the specified file. Now, very important, to avoid duplicates with existing user accounts from importing, uncheck when missing auto-populate required names and user accounts with ID values. Now we're going to click Next. Now, messages you want displayed are the content of the specified import file has been read successfully, and some process records have been found to be invalid, etc. Now, invalid records are intentional. In this case, to give you the opportunity to edit personnel records to link with existing user accounts before the import process completes. Now, importing personnel records automatically adds personnel registration and professional status records linked with user accounts. Now, we're going to click Next. The wizard is now ready to process the import data from the specified file. Now, important, to avoid duplicates with existing user accounts from importing, we're going to uncheck when missing auto-populate required. Okay. All right. Give me one moment, folks, here. Right now, invalid records are highlighted with corresponding error message displayed below of list records. Okay. In this case, the error states an invalid user account. Now, again, this is intentional to momentarily pause and edit records before completing the import process to avoid duplicates and link with existing user accounts by substituting the personnel ID with a work-related email as the user account login. Now, click the highlighted record and then click Edit Records at left. Repeat this. Now we're going to check the user account field. We're going to check this user account and enter his email address. There we have it. And then we're going to click Save. Okay. We're going to repeat the process until all records are importable and as indicated by a white list with no highlights. Okay. or error message displayed at the bottom of the list records. So now let me enter. Oops. And Smith. And save. All right. Now everything is whitelisted as we can see, and now we're going to click Next. Okay, now records are all ready to import. We're going to click the Next button to import the records. All right, now when you see the message displayed, the entire data set has been successfully imported into your online database, click Finish. Now to verify imported personnel records, click More at the top right, or is not needed, actually. The refresh button is right here. So this is what I wanted to click, refresh. There we have it. Okay, now notice the 2 additional personnel records added in the top page from importing. Now click to highlight John Smith to display his professional status record to this in the page at the very bottom. Okay. Now repeat to see Mary Smith's professional status, personnel employment, and functional roles. Okay. Now, personnel employment status records need to be added manually for imported records. Functional roles will be automatically added if followed up by importing classes with teachers assigned. Okay. These should display below. Now, to verify linked user accounts from the organization menu, select Users. Now, from the user account lister we're going to sort. To display user accounts automatically added and linked to personnel records through the import process, we're going to filter for contains Smith and say OK. Now these user accounts will need to be added to an access group as recommended for managing users, and user login credentials will need to be established for each account. Now until then, these user accounts are non-functional. Are there any questions about importing personnel records in your online database? I'm sorry, folks, I am going over over our time that we had scheduled here, but I appreciate it if you can stay a few more minutes so I can wrap up my my presentation here. I appreciate it very much. Now, we can provide you with a folder of import templates. Let me show you here. Okay, these are import templates to help you populate your online database without using manual data entry or a third-party import system. Okay, now such as the one used for today's demonstration to import personnel records. Okay. Okay, now this first sheet provides, oh, sorry folks, let's see, teacher, import, teacher records, here we go. Now this first sheet provides detailed directions for steps to populate the import file, steps to save the populated template as an import file, steps to import records, and steps to view and confirm imported records. The second sheet, it is the fillable template with simple data. Okay. Now reference the exchanging data with third-party systems document included in the folder of import templates to identify the specified type of data to populate each column. Now, are there any final questions about adding personnel before we wrap it up? All right, folks, thank you very much, April. Now to clear your screen at far right, we can click on Pages and select Close All Pages. This will clear off your screen. Now, if you are finished working in TA at top left, you can click Lock if you're planning to return and continue working later. Otherwise, you can click Disconnect from the server. Okay. We're going to click again to exit the application and close our files. Okay. All right, folks. Now, each workshop in a set of CASAS Online implementation basics builds in the last in a logical progression for helping you to get up and running with the online database. If you miss a workshop, we posted a playlist from past recordings so that you may review a previously attended workshop or preview upcoming workshops from training and support, eTest Online Health, CASAS Online Implementation Basics. This is a link that you need to click on to see all past recordings. Or you can also access them from our social media newsroom from our YouTube channel. Now, please note the information I will paste in a moment into our chat box here. This is from our CASAS Technology Support team. Now, the support team is available to provide any technical assistance you may need to ensure successful implementation. Now, this email alerts a support team that includes several members. Now, communicating to the larger group will help to ensure you receive a timely response. And team members are available from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Monday through Friday. Now, we look forward to you joining us for the next session on how to add classes. Thank you for your time, and this concludes the workshop on adding personnel in your online database.